So welcome everybody. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on building a warrior culture. The first episode was building a team of warriors, which I did, went over the 10 qualities of a warrior. And if you missed that, you can email me and we can get it sent to you. And just, it was some good times, good talk. And today I'm real excited. We're going to talk about implementing a warrior culture. We've got 2 very special guests. We've got Nathan Peterman, NFL quarterback for the Oakland Raiders, and we have Nick QB. Actually, Nick, can you pronounce it for us? Because I wanted to do the French version. How do you say Huguet?
Huguet.
Yeah. Nick is a leader and trainer of special forces, an incredibly impressive guy, played basketball at the University of Illinois. And is actually doing some coaching now too in his spare time. So real quick, we're going to go to the 10 qualities of a warrior and just review those if you haven't seen those so far. So if you want to see these, please email me at bethethumb@yahoo.com. So real quick, the 10 qualities of a warrior is, number 1, they don't complain, they work towards solutions. The opposite of complaining is figuring it out. Number 2, a warrior feeds the positive. The warrior finds the positive in every situation. The whole John Gordon, you got 2 dogs fighting inside yourself. Warriors find the positives. And 3, warriors don't let small stuff bother them. Petty problems don't bother warriors. Take an athlete, for example. Nathan, he's tough. He's not going to worry about the weather outside. And it is, Nathan, I guess it's going to be like 180 degrees in Las Vegas for you, right?
Go on.
Warriors don't pout. After a mistake, they have great body language. They don't let one mistake bother them. They rebound from those mistakes. Second, warriors always have great body language. Body language screams, and a warrior screams confidence to his teammates. Warriors also don't resent other people's success. Great teams are at that level where they don't care who gets the credit. Warriors also realize, you know what? Maybe my parents are not objective. Maybe my friends are not objective. They love me. A warrior understands that. And lastly, a warrior is committed to mastering the boring, and we'll talk about that a little bit. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to introduce Jeff Harlow. Jeff Harlow has been a great friend of mine for many years. He was the head coach at Barry University, did a tremendous job there at Barry. He is also almost a professional golfer, if you want to know, and now works with a high school program in North Carolina. So, Jeff Harlow, I will let you start the question and answer period with our guest.
Well, I appreciate it, and if I'm a professional golfer, the standards are much lower than they used to be. But Nick, let's start you off. Can you give an example of how important it is to feed a positive dog, going through the training, that you've put guys through, that you've gone through? What are some of the things that, are important in terms of feeding that positive dog?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a delicate balance that we have to find, because we don't want to be constantly patting these guys on the back. We don't want to be their cheerleaders, because in essence, when they initially come to us, they're there for a job interview, a pretty long and painstaking job interview. And we're there to help them succeed, but we're not there to force them through, because we're looking for a certain type of person, somebody that's resilient, somebody that can take correction, somebody that can fail and learn from their experiences and get back up and go. So the way that we feed the positive dog is, while correcting them, we make sure to annotate the good things that they did in the process. So if we're doing a certain event and let's just say they did average, we'll go through step by step everything that they did, every step that they take, and we'll go, you did this well here, but you failed here, you were short here, you didn't meet the standards in this area. in order to move forward, you're going to have to continue to do what you're doing right, and you're also going to have to correct X, Y, and Z. We feel like it's really important that guys not just feel like they're just getting beaten down and constantly told only what they're doing wrong. We have to reinforce positive things and the positive elements that they're doing, or else we find that it leads guys to doubt everything that they're doing, even when they're doing stuff right. So the key is finding that balance. And when you're talking about doing it with kids where they may not have the maturity and that resilience that comes with experience and with failure, I think even more so you have to accentuate what they're doing right. You have to build them up. And I think most coaches realize this, that when you're going through a practice and you're going through drills, there's a lot of encouragement, and building that within the team is critical. But it also, you have to be able to correct guys without breaking them down or, ruining their confidence. So it's just walking that fine line. And at the end of your correction, of your coaching, it's finding the positive and accentuating the right things that guys are executing.
So Nick, I mean, you train special forces, and I know a lot of it's classified. I mean, you're a big deal, and you want one of the Warriors don't care who gets this credit for stuff. Well, I'm a little boy. That's the opposite of a warrior, and I care. I want credit for everything. My wife does 98% of our housework, yet whenever I'm my little 2%, I'll be so excited about it and say, look, honey, I'm taking the trash out. She's re-roofing the house or something, and I'm doing so I want credit. So I know you're a warrior, so you're not gonna brag on yourself, but just tell us a little bit about the type of training you provide and the kind of guys you provide it to.
So the kind of guys that we provide, that we are looking for, are guys that are self-confident enough to make decisions in stressful situations, in time-constrained situations, in dangerous situations. Guys that will not make decisions by being indecisive and allow themselves to be overcome by events. A lot of what we do is we do a lot of individual training initially, where guys are given very simple, concise instructions, but very general and vague instructions. And then it's kind of up to them to complete a various task. It could be anything as simple as just, navigating from one point to another with given certain constraints. Maybe they have a vehicle, maybe they don't. To much more complex things like basic engineering and building of what a construction worker would consider something small, but to average person would be a fairly difficult engineering task.
And these are elite Army guys, right? Is that what
yeah,
I mean?
And we're not looking for specific skills. We're looking for decision-making ability. And we're looking to how they react when they fail, because they will inevitably fail, because we give them tasks that they aren't necessarily skilled at, right. But that they have to do.
So are these like Delta Force, Green Beret, what exact, Army Rangers, or all the above, really?
Yeah, all the above, yeah.
Wow.
So and then and that's just an initial selection. And then once we get into tactical training, which I can't really talk about. You're talking about a lot more tactical training. You'll be more team events.
Yeah.
But the meat and potatoes of the individuals that we're looking for comes along in selection, in that selection process. And that's where we get the type of personality that we're looking for to then build the teamwork on top of that.
And there's cross-training between branches of the military too, right? As I've gotten to know you, like you guys, do you train SEALs? Do you train the Air Force Special Forces? I mean, that happens some too, right?
Yeah, there is definitely some cross-training elements within that.
Wow. And everybody thinks the SEALs are the baddest. I think you Army guys are pretty tough too. The Green Beret, Delta Force guys.
We try.
Well, thanks, Nick. All right, so first question for Nathan. Nathan, you've had an incredible journey. Quick story about Nathan. Nathan started at the University of Tennessee, and I'm a huge Tennessee fan. huge, big time. So I go down to Florida Field. I don't remember what year it was, and with a buddy of mine, and Nathan starts a quarterback, and it doesn't go great. And Nathan ends up transferring to Pittsburgh, and it's like All-American, whatever you were, incredible, you go to the NFL. Well, I told my buddy that went with me to that game, I said, man, I got to know Nathan Peterman. And my buddy goes, I hate that guy. I go, what? Why do you hate that guy? I said, I said, one, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And two, he's a lot better person than you are. So, I mean, that is crazy what you deal with in that with fans and playing quarterback, the toughest position there is. So, you've had setbacks, you've had great moments. Tell us a little bit about how many times have you been cut and then made teams? I mean, that's an incredible story. Can you talk a little bit about your journey and how you've handled the setbacks?
Yeah, so you kind of alluded to it. I've definitely had ups and downs, and unfortunately or fortunately, I think that's part of life. I think that's part of obviously the game that we play, but part of life as well. You get ups and downs in life. Things go your way sometimes, things don't go your way sometimes, and whatever has happened to me, I think I've always gone back to, first of all, the goals I've set and what, I kind of wanted in my life or in my career, those goals that I wanted to obtain and I worked so hard for. And then, if I had a setback or something wrong happened that wasn't supposed to go to how I would have envisioned it to, help me get to my goal of going to the NFL or whatever it was, talking about college. It was always about, okay, well, now what? Talking about kind of the response to failure sometimes. I think that's the most important thing because it is about what do I do when things don't go my way. And for me, sorry, go ahead.
Have you always had that? I mean, when you were 10 years old, I mean, how did you get that quality, that toughness? I mean,
yeah.
You were obviously a big-time high school quarterback in Jacksonville. And so with that, I wouldn't think there were too many setbacks in high school for you. So, how did you have that?
Yeah, people want to act like, it's easy once you get recruited and all this stuff. But I would definitely say I wasn't the highest recruited guy ever. But, you want to know when you're 10 years old, even going back to that, I remember this vaguely, but I think it just kind of has to do with what kind of spirit you have in yourself. And I think for me, I've always been a fighter, My dad tells a story, and I don't know if I should be as proud about this, but I can't really remember much. But I was 4 years old, and we'd wrestle. My dad's big, kind of just having fun and stuff. We'd wrestle, and he had me pinned or something, and I could not move. I was just, kind of incapable of any movement. He just pinned me down. And he says that I spit in his face. That was kind of my last and so I don't know, if that's the best story to tell, but I think it's kind of telling to where, no matter what was holding me down, what obstacles or anything, I was going to try to find a way to overcome whatever obstacle I thought that was. And so I think that's just continued on with me. I really, a lot of guys are committed by junior or sophomore year. I didn't have my first offer till after my junior year, going into senior year, and recruiting kind of picked up and stuff, but I would just never say that I ever felt like anything was easy for me. And I don't really want that because I think it's so much more valuable when you've had to earn every single thing that you've got. Nobody ever came and saw an eye test like, man, that guy looks so good physically, let's just offer him on the spot. I think I had to work for everything and prove it, show people what I could do. And I think I'm still in that boat. I think that's a good kind of place to be in. And I think it's the most healthy for me, where I feel like every day I'm going out there to work to prove something to somebody. If it's not somebody else, it's myself, just to prove to myself what I can do, and that I know that all the work that I've put in and I'm putting in now is worth it.
That's absolutely incredible. So, man, wow. Jeff, next question for Nick.
Yeah. Nick, one of the things that we've talked about in the past, kind of as colleagues and buddies, but trying to find your why. Why are you passionate about playing basketball? Are you passionate about the job that you're in now? And the importance with the guys that you train, and how important is the why? Why Nathan continues to work his tail off as a quarterback. Why do you, have the passion to train these guys and continue to do what you do? Finding your why. What's your response to that?
That's a great question, and it covers a lot of things. I think your why is really the cornerstone of not just why you do something, but whether or not you excel at it. And it's the why. Your why is something that's going to change over time, even if you're staying within the same occupation or the same sport. As you develop, as you age, as you mature, you're going to move into different periods that are going to have different whys. Starting with in high school, it may just be something as simple as your love for the game, or it may have been what you and your dad or your mom or your best friends did, and you just grew to love an activity. And as you mature and get older and get better at it, that drive becomes more and more internalized. But where the why is important and why it's important to know your why is when things don't go well, when the game's not fun, when it's your fault that you lost a game or that you failed in some way. Because it's in those moments that you build that resiliency by falling back on your why and reminding yourself why you're doing something. Reminding yourself why you spend 2 hours in the gym after having a bad game, or why you spend time studying tape when all your friends are out on a Friday night. The why is something that you just keep coming back to. And as you grow older, you move from amateur to professional sports like Nathan goes in, it requires different things. It may be family. It may be supporting loved ones that are going through a hard time. There's all kinds of whys that are out there. And it's so much more than just having a passion for what you do. It's having a passion for something that's bigger than yourself and that's beyond yourself. I just go back to the importance of the why is something that you fall back on when things don't go well, when you're failing, or when you're just burnt out or feel like you don't want to do something anymore. You can go back and look at that why and remember why you're doing it, and hopefully, give yourself a little shot in the arm.
Good stuff. Nick, you've talked about resiliency a lot, and you even told me that's the number one quality that you're looking for in your special forces guys, and, being resilient. Can you and Nathan, I guess I'll let you go first on this, talk about dealing, because Nathan, you're obviously incredibly resilient, and that's a warrior quality. How do you deal with the physical pain that is associated, Nick, with what you guys do, and Nathan, first of all, with, getting hit? How? I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. So, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, you go back to being just a little kid. I'm the youngest of 3 boys, so I think it always started with that. My brothers beat me up, and so I guess I was kind of used to it. But more than that, I think it always comes back to the goal. For me, is just where do I want to be? And what do I want to do? I want to be great. So sometimes you got to go through tough, mental things, emotional things, but also physical things. So that soreness, I will say, it definitely feels a lot better after a win. The Monday after a win, somehow those same hits just feel a little bit better and set a little bit better. But other than that, it's just you kind of grow to love it a little bit, because it's just that badge of honor almost, and you feel like you went out and actually did something. And I think if you love something enough, if you have the passion for it, if you have the why, like Nick just talked about, which I thought was incredible, such a good point. If you have the right why, and it's really a driving why, internally for you, then it's really hard for something physically to come in that way. And I've had a lot of injuries. I've done some things to my hands, shoulders, elbow, thumb, all these things. And I think it always comes back to that, even in injuries, is sure, bruises and things like that, but even broken bones when you have to, or torn ligaments when you really got to battle back and therapy and rehab, it comes back to the why, like Nick said. So that's definitely a very powerful thing to always have.
I almost want to ask you, what's the hardest hit you've ever taken? But I don't want you to have to go public, because then some NFL guy will see this and be like, I'll show him the most painful hit. So, I mean,
Thanks
man,
for
I mean,
that one.
what hurts the most? Is it the blind side you don't see, or is that the one that hurts the most, or,
I think the blind side, you're almost a little looser to it, so you don't quite brace up for it as much, and it might not hurt the most. But I've gotten hit in the head a few times, unfortunately, and those haven't felt great. But I think when you're kind of head up, looking at something, and somebody kind of comes and gets you, those never feel good either.
And you got to pop up to gain your teammates' respect, right? I mean, you just can't.
Absolutely.
That's how those tough linemen, and that's how you gain their respect is
right. We're getting lucky with a few of these new rules, but before these rules, when somebody could really land on you, and I've had it even happen after that. But those, when somebody's picking you up and then driving you into the ground, kind of that double force, those never feel good either.
I can't imagine. So Nick, let's go from one of the most painful things there is that I can imagine in sports to life or death. I mean, how do y'all deal with pain? So, I mean, that makes what Nathan's dealt with even pale in comparison when you're putting your life on the line. So
for me, and I think for a lot of guys, it starts at a young age, and it starts with development. And I will say that athletics plays a huge part in the success of a lot of guys that come through our pipeline. We have a significant amount of high school and college athletes that come through. And I think that's a result of a developmental process where guys learn a little bit about suffering early on. And it's built up in their system where they realize, everything has an end. I'm not going to suffer. I'm in a semi-rational occupation where my trainers aren't going to make me suffer until I die, basically. Yeah. So it is you start in high school or middle school where you're doing some wind sprints and some calisthenics and other stuff. And then as you get into high school, it becomes more and more advanced. And then college, obviously, as you all know, you can really you do a significant amount of physical training of what I would consider suffering, 30 suicides in 30 minutes kind of things, to crucible events. And for me especially, and for the other former athletes that I've talked to that have come through our job, all of that, it just helps with that mindset, and it builds up. Because then once you get to the military and you do a lot of the selection processes are suffering, whether it's teamwork or individual based, it is suffering. And it's having that understanding that it's going to end at some point, and to give your best, or in the sports metaphor, to leave it all out on the field or leave it all on the floor. And then, the rest is up to the people evaluating you. But to know that there's going to be an end, and so that you can give everything that you have until your body gives out, or until it ends, that's something that if you learn that starting from a young age at a gradual level and is built up, it helps exponentially. And so that's something that we look for, and we hope that they have a little bit of that, or they have to have some of that before they even get to us. Yeah. And then from that point, it's just continuing to work through that through training. And I would say about 80 to 90% of our training, we train as if everything's going to go right exactly to plan. But then what we'll generally do, or in random times and random fashion, so the guys won't know where we're coming, we'll throw in all kinds of impossible scenarios and issues that there's no way they're going to pass or succeed. They're going to fail, and it's going to take an extra 2 hours that they didn't plan for, and they're going to be physically exhausted.
Which that's a great thing for coaches listening to this. You're going along and throw in something where there's shared suffering. I think that's a great example of how to build that teamwork and mental toughness, building that warrior culture that we're talking about. That's one key thing that I've learned from you over our time together is now obviously you got to be smart. Shared suffering doesn't mean like you getting sued by 6 sets of parents, but still there are a lot of ways to do that.
Right. Yeah. And because that's what you want. We've always talked about ideally you want to build a player coached team where, you're kind of supervising and you're managing and you are coaching, you're doing the X's and the O's, but you want to have your players be able to rely on themselves and on each other first and foremost, with, minimal guidance from you from the bench, wherever you are.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Nathan, you played for a lot of great coaches. And you played at the Power 5 level, a lot of great coaches. What's the one quality, if you just had to say one quality that separates the great coach from the good coach? Because if you coached at the Power 5 level, you're a good coach. If you've coached in the NFL, you're a good coach. What is the one quality that makes a great coach?
Yeah, well, I'd even say too, I've had some great coaches, and honestly, one of my best coaches has been on the high school level. And so I think there's good coaches at every single level. And really it's kind of how you get there. But some of the greatest lessons and things I've learned is in high school. So I would say, just to those people, how much of an impact that you're going to have on these kids' lives. But, if I had to pick one, there's so many that I feel like I could think of and mold and impact me. But the main one that sticks with me, and maybe this is how I'm coached or whatever. But I think, we talked about a little bit before of obviously shared suffering and stuff, and that it can't go forever. But I think that a kid needs to know too that the coach, whoever it is ultimately has their best mind interest in hand. Now that's the biggest thing for me is I can think of high school coaches, college coaches, NFL coaches that ultimately, when I believe that not even believe, but when they've showed me that, hey, I believe in you, and I believe that if you do this thing or whatever, that I'm going to coach you hard because I believe that you can get there. So when you show a kid or whoever that you have that belief in them, I think the ends that you can push that kid to are probably a little bit further. And I know that, I think from personal experience, I've had a coach who would, dog press me on the field, and if you have a misread or misdecision or whatever, he's going to get after you. But at the same time, once we came off the field, I can relate with him so good. And he knows that, I ultimately want the best for myself. And so he's going to push me to get that best from me as well. And I think of multiple examples where that's been the case, where I don't care how much you yell at me or anything, when I know that you're not just doing it because, you want to show that you're tougher than me or have more authority or whatever, but I really believe that you're doing it for a reason and to make, our team better and make me better, both through that, so we can accomplish the same goals that we're trying to get to. So, again, it's hard to pick just one, but I really feel like, people don't, I read a book back in the day that was basically people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I've just seen that in my own life to where, when I really know that the coach cares about, the same goals I'm trying to get to and cares about, making me the best I can be. And I trust that. That's where I really see the great leadership qualities come in.
I've read so much on leadership, and trust is is just top. Almost every leadership guru will say trust is number one. Providing a safe environment where the people that follow you feel safe. And to the coaches and ADs out there, we live in a time where the athlete has to like you to play well for you. I mean, respect, they're almost one now. Different than it was 20 years ago. That's changed. I mean, athletes have to like you. They're not going to perform well if they don't. It just comes down to it's so important for them to like you. And so anyway, great stuff. Great stuff. All right, Jeff, next question for Nick.
Yeah, I think I'd love for Nick to talk a little bit about body language. And I can't imagine situations that, like you've already mentioned, life and death, and having that guy beside you and reading their body language. Obviously, Nathan seeing the body language that he sees out there on the, on the field. But just the importance of body language, with your team. how important that is. So, Nick, go for it.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. The thing about body language is, it's a reflection of our emotions, and we don't ever want to we don't want to coach, and we're not going to coach robots. We don't want to take emotion out of the game and out of our players' personalities. I once had a leader early on that said, whenever we get tasked with something that nobody wanted to do, or if we were facing a challenge that just was going to be horrible, he'd say, all right, we got 5 minutes. You can bitch and complain all you want. And then after that, we're moving on and we're going forward. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for with body language. If you make a mistake, I don't mind if you show a little anger or disgust with yourself. It's how you recover, and it's how quickly you bounce back and you move on and you leave that alone. It's when the body language starts becoming prolonged, when guys are running up and down the court with their shoulders hunched for multiple possessions, or when they carry it with them throughout the game and it turns into a snowball effect where one mistake leads to greater mistake. I think that's where we as coaches have a huge impact on our players, is being able to shift their focus away from mistakes, and that'll carry over to their body language. A lot of times it's something as simple as just, cueing kids to their body language. I think a lot of them get in the habit of just reacting and carrying it with them, and pointing out, what they look like, what they're doing, and the effect that that's having on their teammates as well as on their opponents is really important. But yeah, when I think about body language, I think that it's not an initial reaction. It's the continued demonstration of negative body language that is going to really sink an individual and a team over time.
Oh, that's great stuff. Wow. Yeah, so you can't control the initial response, is what you're saying. But yeah, if 5, 6, 10 seconds later, a referee makes a bad call and you're pouting on the bench, and that's a reaction. And referees are trained not to tee up the initial reaction, at least in basketball. Nathan, if you could ask Nick one question. Nick's a guy that has led special forces, trained some of the elite men, women that have served in our country. What would you ask him if you had one question to ask?
Well, do you mind if I get two? Because just listening to this,
you got it, buddy.
Don't mind, Nick. That'd be great. So the first one was just, I heard you mention, the biggest thing that you guys look for first is the self-confidence in decision making. So would love to just hear a little bit more about the role that completely, makes in decision making, and how you see that come about, and how you even, try to encourage that also within your leaders, and how they can make, better decisions, quicker decisions, whatever that is.
Yeah. So we want guys that are confident enough in their ability and their cognitive ability and their intelligence to make a decision given a limited but acceptable amount of information, and move forward with the task.
So how can you get better at that? How can we, as coaches, train athletes, and how can we get better?
I think that comes a lot with giving kids or giving athletes certain parameters and not micromanaging. I know that's got a really negative connotation, but not micromanaging them. Jeff and I talk with our kids a lot about our plays and our sets are designed to score, but not to a T. We want you guys, we're giving you plays and offense and defensive schemes to put you in the opportunity to score or to get a steal or whatever it is. That doesn't mean that you have to run these offenses like robots and completely ignore everything that's going on around you. We're just trying to open up the court, but we're giving you the autonomy to play basketball. So if we've got a guy coming off a screen over here, but you have a lane to the basket, you drive to the basket. You're not waiting on that to happen.
I call that being engaged to a play, not being married.
Yeah.
To a play. Yeah. I've always,
So it's giving players the autonomy to make decisions and to make mistakes, and then providing the feedback that they need on, why that was or wasn't what they should have done. For us, that is really what it comes down to a lot of our selection process is that autonomy, and are guys able to take that information quickly, go through, process everything, make a decision, and move forward. One of the things that we absolutely don't want is somebody to be indecisive and to make a decision by not making a decision. So, a lot of guys will just freeze, and they won't be able to, in a timely manner, take a certain amount of information and execute a task.
Sounds like an NFL quarterback, Nathan, to me. I mean,
well, I'm learning a bunch. Yeah, that's awesome.
And Nick, let me ask one more thing real quick. Do you see your guys progress in that decision making?
Yes.
Or do you have it or not have it?
No, I think a little bit of both. I think we aren't looking to develop that. If a guy doesn't have it, at least at a basic level before he gets to us, we're not going to take the time to develop it, because we're dealing with guys in their late 20s, early 30s that they're already, we don't have as much time as we'd like. But that's definitely something that you can develop in people, especially when they're younger. A lot of it, deals with self-confidence, and having that ability to make mistakes and to be picked right back up, and have the confidence of, like Nathan talked, of having a coach that they know cares about them and cares about their best interest, telling them, hey, yeah, you screwed up, but let's move forward. I still believe in you. I know that you can make the right choice going on. And that builds the resiliency that we're talking about as well. So, yeah, not sure if I answered the question entirely.
That's good stuff. All right. Question number 2, Nathan.
Yeah. So obviously we talked about failure. We talked about resiliency a lot. And then we talked about the reaction to that failure. So I'd just love to hear, from a special forces, from a military perspective, obviously so much respect for what you guys do, but what reaction are you guys almost coaching or encouraging them to have when something goes the wrong way or failure happens or whatever? What do you want to see the reaction to be?
So very similar answer to the last question. We want to see decisiveness. We want to see some kind of action. We always want guys to be proactive and not reactive. We'd rather see a guy make the wrong decision than make no decision at all, like I said. We found that, through our hiring and selection process, that most of the time guys are going to make the right decision, or they're going to make they're going to move in a direction that is more advantageous than if they just do nothing. If they make a conscious decision to do nothing in a certain scenario, that's a whole nother thing. Is, we do training where there's a mass casualty event. Well, trying to pick everybody up and move them a mile just isn't feasible. And we'll see a guy do that, and we'll be like, why did you do that? Why, you basically were completely combat ineffective. There is no way that you're going to move, and you basically exhausted the remaining half of your force by trying to move these guys a mile, instead of consolidating everybody and then waiting for someone to come. So what we get out of that is, one, we give a lot of feedback, and we get a lot of feedback and data that is not only good for the element that is training, but is also good for other elements for future training and just for education, and sharing training events across different units, if that makes sense. A lot of the training that we do drives further training that we'll do later on down the road, because we'll go back and we'll do a similar, not the same kind of incident, and see if the decision making is different and is more in line with what the ideal response would have been. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but what we're looking to see is, did the leaders learn from what they messed up last time, and did they correct it when faced with a similar situation? And we never know what we're going to run into overseas and missions here and there. But what we can do is we can take the lessons learned from missions in the past and then apply them to the training so that when or if they come up again, they have some general idea of what they're looking at and what they're seeing.
That is amazing stuff, Nick. It really is. So, all right, Nick, your turn. Question for Nathan.
Yeah. I had something jotted down here. So obviously, you know, as a professional athlete, especially now with everything going on, there's probably a lot of uncertainty. How do you, and let me go back to myself. I know as an athlete in high school and college, I would say I was an average athlete at best. And I was constantly comparing myself to some of the super athletes that were my peers that, you know, could jump out of the gym, could run 100 miles an hour.
Well, first of all, Nick, you did play at Illinois, so it's not like you played at D3. You know, I mean, so I don't want you to act like you obviously had some ability, and you're 6'6", I think. So I mean, you have some.
I consider myself an average athlete at best.
You guys don't know what average is, you and Nathan.
Nope.
Jeff, we'll know what average is sometime. All right. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So as you've moved up, whether high school, college, and now in the pros, and the kind of level of competition and the level of athlete has gotten better, how do you remain grounded and keep from comparing yourself to, you know, some of these super athletes, whether it's a quarterback or other positions, and focus on what you're good at and just being the best at the things that have gotten you to where you are?
Wow, that's a great question, honestly. And really, I think it's great too because it's something I had to learn. You know, frankly, was the same kind of type of thing that you're saying. Is I had role models, I had people I looked up to, and you know, at first I thought, you know, I have to be exactly like them. My story needs to be exactly like them. I need to be recruited like they did. I need to, you know, start the same year that they did. All these things, and it was kind of a learning process. You know, I remember I had a college visit. And, you know, there's a quarterback at my high school that went there. And it was a guy I looked up to so much. And he went there, played there and everything. So I thought, hey, they've got to offer me right now. And, you know, this is how it's going to happen. If I'm going to make it to that level, you know, it's going to happen just like this. And they didn't offer me, you know, and I remember being so upset about that. And I just remember my dad telling me after that, like, hey, your story does not have to be the same as his story. And I think, especially today, I mean, this is one of the greatest questions I think you could have asked, because we live in this social media age that people are constantly comparing themselves to each other on a daily basis, just in their lives, you know, just with, is my life better than his or hers, or, you know, am I better than him or her? So I think learning to just, you know, run your own race and, you know, believe that what God has in store for you is enough. You know, and he's got great things in store for you and the next person. He has an unbelievable story for everybody. And that's what's really gotten me, you know, just to keep going, you know, the next step. I still have people, you know, guys that I think do a great job that I want to learn some things from. And, you know, I haven't left that part of the game out at all, because I think you can always be learning something from other people. But when it comes to comparing yourself to them and thinking that I have to do it exactly like them, you almost start, you know, boxing yourself in, even, you know, and, you know, limiting yourself to, you know, those are the only kind of parameters or barriers that I can get to. And really, you've got to be able to, one of the best things I think, and this is from my high school coach, is that just to control, you can control. And I think that's one of the best aspects of a great athlete or a successful person or anything, is that they realize that all that they can do is within their control, and however things shake out after that, you know, they just happen, and you can't control that, but they put all their focus, all their energy and direction into what they can do. So I think that goes exactly back to, hey, I'm going to work as hard as I can to be the best that I think I can, without comparing myself and thinking that I didn't do enough by, you know, didn't do it exactly like this other person did it. You know, it's very powerful just to have, like you said, the self-confidence to be able to do those things and really trust yourself.
Man, guys, this has been incredible. I've learned so much. Nick, thank you so much. Every time I get to talk to you, I like you more. Same thing with you, Nathan. You're an incredible human being. Just the amount of humility you show for being where you are. It's just absolutely incredible. Great, great guy. Jeff, as I get to know you more, I like you less, but the other good. Appreciate your help on this. You've been a great friend for years. So this is episode 2. Episode 3 will be coming soon, and we're going to have another special force dude that is just as tough as Nick, I think. And he's going to be on there, and we're going to have Heather Macy talk about emotional intelligence. So thank you so much, guys, for being there. And again, great stuff. Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.